Should you be stockpiling cash or gold for an emergency? I'm going to offer my insight on this to help you make an informed decision. But I'm going to preface this by saying that I am not God and I am not the chairman of the Federal Reserve, so I cannot guarantee exactly how the next emergency is going to play out. But I can offer my insight on how I see things playing out in my professional opinion. I'm also going to preface this by saying that you should thoroughly research anyone you're considering taking this type of advice from off of the internet. Now, a lot of people do like to hang on to cash or gold for an event where they fear they won't be able to access the money in their bank and they will have to just get by on whatever amount of cash or gold they have on hand. In a scenario like that, it is more sensible to have cash on hand rather than gold. If you need to fill up your gas tank, the gas station does not accept gold, so you would need to convert your gold to cash in order to spend it. So you would need to find a reputable gold dealer who could buy your gold from you in exchange for cash. Now, if this is happening on a day in which you are unable to access the cash in your bank, then the gold dealer is also unable to access the cash in their bank. And they only have so much of a supply on hand before they run out. So if you find a gold dealer who still has enough cash to buy your gold from you, then I want you to ask yourself how realistically you think you're going to get the amount of cash that your gold is worth. The gold dealer has to be able to sell that gold for a profit. It is a business. And no one's ever going to buy gold for more than what it's worth, so he has to acquire gold for less than what it's worth. And there's going to be a line of people behind you waiting for their turn to sell their gold before this gold dealer runs out of cash. So you're going to accept whatever offer you can get for your gold because you're going to be desperate to get to the grocery store to buy food to feed your family. So in that scenario, it is better to just have cash on hand. As far as how much cash you need to have on hand, I don't see a need to have cash for a long-term event. I do see reasons to have cash on hand for a short-term emergency. I see things playing out very similarly to the way they played out during our most recent crisis, and that was the COVID-19 crisis in 2020. That's the closest thing we've seen to a run on the banks in recent years, and that's when everyone runs into the bank and says, give me every dollar I have in my bank account. I want to hold all of that cash in my hands, and I want to take it home and hide it under my pillow so that I can sleep at night. And if enough people do that, it can cause instability in a bank's balance sheet. The Federal Reserve monitors banks' balance sheets for any signs of instability, and in 2020 they began to see signs of instability. And so they began injecting money into the banking system to stabilize it. And to ensure that they would have all the resources they need to continue doing that, they began quantitative easing, or printing new money, or increasing the U.S. money supply, whatever you want to call it. Quantitative easing went on from 2020 until 2022 to ensure that the Federal Reserve had as much money as they needed to continue pumping money into the banking system to maintain stability there, to prevent any bank from freezing, to ensure that your debit card never stopped working. And the reason they need to ensure that your debit card never stops working. Now, if you run your bank account dry due to your own spending, that's a you problem. That's not a bank problem, but that's not what we're talking about. The reason they need to ensure that your debit card never stops working is 68% of the U.S. economy is supported by consumer spending. We are a consumer economy. So the day that everyone's debit card stops working is the day consumer spending comes to a halt and the consumer economy collapses. And if we lose enough jobs due to a halt in consumer spending, then we lose all of those wages and we lose all of the federal income tax on those wages. And the Federal Reserve will do everything in their power to prevent that scenario because federal income tax is what funds the U.S. Department of Defense. The U.S. has one of the largest and most well-funded defense departments in the world. We are one of the largest and most well-funded militaries in the world, and the U.S. would like to keep it that way. So the Federal Reserve has some very important reasons to do everything in their power, and they have a lot of power. They'll do everything in their power to print as much money as they need to inject as much money as they need to into the banking system to maintain stability there, to ensure that your debit card never stops working, to ensure that you never stop spending. So I hope knowing that helps you make an informed decision on realistically what you need to prepare for, realistically how much cash you need to keep on hand. Quantitative easing went on from 2020 until 2022. In 2022, the Federal Reserve went back to those banks and said, things look fine now, you're going to be okay, so we're going to start taking back all of that money we gave you, because it was never yours to begin with and it was never supposed to exist to begin with. So they began pulling all that money back out of the banking system and they began erasing it from the US money supply. And that is called quantitative tightening, or shrinking the US money supply. And we like quantitative tightening because the more dollars that exist, the less each dollar is worth. And the fewer dollars that exist, the more each dollar is worth. So we like quantitative tightening. And quantitative tightening went on from 2020 until 2025. And that is how that whole crisis played out over time. So the next time we see an event like that, I would expect it to play out very similarly to that. There could be a short-term event that you need to have a cash supply for. We might experience a temporary failure of the power grid due to a natural disaster or a terrorist attack, and maybe the grocery stores are only accepting cash because without power the debit machines don't work. And maybe you're going to go back to the bank to replenish your cash supply, but if there is a run on the bank, if everyone shows up at the bank on the exact same day and pulls all of their cash out of their bank accounts, each bank only holds so much cash in their vault. So you might get to the bank and they might say, I'm sorry, we have run out of cash today, but come back tomorrow, we get a cash delivery every day. So maybe you come back tomorrow, but the line is even longer because so many people were turned away the day before. So it could become difficult to get the cash out of your bank for a short period of time, but I don't see it being a long-term problem. You should remember that whatever amount of cash you are keeping in your home is at risk of theft, and whatever amount of cash you are keeping in your home is not growing. Cash doesn't grow. It doesn't keep up with rising inflation or the rising cost of goods, so it is unwise to hold a large portion of your net worth in cash. I hope all of this helps you make an informed decision on what is a reasonable amount of cash for you to hold on to. And I hope you can find an amount that you can be comfortable with. And I hope you found all of this helpful.